Okay, this is the hierarchy. There are, sometimes there are esoteric trees. There are like the Kabbalic tree. There's several different types of intellectual understandings. This is like a pyramid, but from the gist of what I can understand, they have the Hermetica, also the 7 principles of the Hermetica. If you've never studied that, we'll go into that a little bit. But this is not exactly that. This is my rendering of the evolution of concepts. What I call the evolution of concepts. So the first concept that you have here is action. So first concept, action. The next one after that is materialism. So action is the first perspective. It's the first understanding. It's like a type A sort of action perspective. That is like doing things without thinking, purely without thinking. And so I wanted to show you something. You see this here? This is perfect. See, the first one here is this is the first cube or the first block. So the first cube is what I'm talking about. The visual representation starts at the bottom. So you see all the ones here? This is action first. So the concept of action is one action, one concept at a time. Now someone who's in level 2 has two concepts evolution. The one in level 3 concept evolution, then 4 concept evolution, then 5 concept evolution, all the way to 6 concept evolution. So all the way from 1 to 5 is the primitive natured perspective, for lack of a better word, the lower form. Then you have the intermediate form, which would be the 6th concept, which is the intermediate form. So that's 6th concept understanding. Then you have the 7th concept understanding, 8th concept understanding, 9th concept understanding, 10th concept, 11th, and 12th concept understanding. So this is how I drew it out. This is a visual representation of what it is that I'm talking about, that I'm going to explain to you right now. And so, let me bring it back now into here. Now, here's the first one. The first one is action. The second one, materialism. So action, what I mean by action is, I mean action as in type A, sort of perspective, flightiness. So action first could be action without thinking. Could be action without thinking, or action without many sort of thoughts. Could be action that is without a perception of doing things with measurement. So it's doing things just flightiness, reactiveness. So if a person had this personality, let's say they had a personality that was a type A personality, which is high reactiveness, they are the type of person who pulls the trigger first or who reacts first. Then you have the second type, which is the materialist type. So they viewed the world through a materialist understanding. That's the second type. So level 1, like they have in the Hermetica, or if you know the law of 1, with Ra, the law of 1. The second level, this is my representation, so it's not exactly what you've heard before. It's not exactly. So the second representation is materialism. Materialism is the perspective of the material world. So you look at the world, you have the first action, the first energy that the universe came into fruition through action. Then you have that action, that energy formed into the material world around you. And then from that came a conflict, a duality. So duality, you have here duality. Duality, division, and dualism. So those are the concepts that are adjusted for what I'm saying in respect towards the dualist perspective. So dualism or duality. So after the material world comes into existence, then there's a duality. So like 2 asteroids or 2 planets colliding into each other, right? So they were material things that have came out of the Big Bang or the big energy. The third perspective being the duality that they formed from. So then they crash into each other like asteroids crashing into each other, making moons, stuff like that. Then we have the next level, which is more akin to paranoia. So that could be associated with, I call it paranoia, but it's when a community or a cluster of understanding comes together, it can become out paranoid. But it also can be universal understanding. It can be like a primitive understanding that it can be esoteric. So the best way to the fourth level, which I call paranoia, but I don't mean it in a negative sense. I mean it in an esoteric sense. It's an esoteric paranoia. Then the next level after that you have is individuality towards the maverick or superficial. So this is a fifth level. The fifth level is creativity. So the next level after duality is self-possession. So after the self-possession, then you have the individualism through the maverick or the creativity. So after the creativity comes logic, analyzing, to analyze or to be analytical. After that, you have equilibrium and justice or relationships, or you have a balancing act, an equity perspective. After that, you have awareness. So the universal mind awareness, you have awareness, revenge, or plutonic. So this is the disconnected. This is what they call the disconnected perspective. So right there, we've gone into level 1, level 2. Okay, let me show you again. Level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5, and level 6. All of these are the lower energies. The higher energy after logic is a higher energy, but after logic comes equilibrium. After equilibrium comes plutonic. The plutonic perspective is like consciousness. After that, after the conscious perspective, now you have what they call philosophy or refinement. So philosophy, wisdom, and refinement is the 9th perspective, after the 8th perspective being plutonic. So after the plutonic 8th perspective, philosophy. So it evolves into philosophy and refinement. And then after that is stability, solidarity, honor, illustriousness. After that is the next perspective. It evolves into intellectualism. Intellectualism, utility, theoretical, cerebral, complexity. After that is intuitive, is the intuitive perspective or emotion. So that's the intuitive perspective. So let me give you something to work with here. I'm going to show you something. Just give me 1 second. Okay, so you have here. Let me just. I'll read it out to you. Okay, action, the state or process of doing something or being active. Operations, sometimes done such as an act or deed. Movement or posture during some physical activity, force, or energy, a man of action. Action is a kind of low-form energy without mind and thinking. Its form is that of one action at a time, with no network or theory. This energy has its place, just like all words. These operations are single notes. Single notes move only as one. The operation's single note moves only as one. Ideal. Primitive, relating to denoting or preserving the character of an earlier stage in the evolution or historical development of something, notably personal concept. So that's the first level. The next level after that is the materialist. So materialism is the tendency to consider material possessions and physical comforts as more important than spiritual values. An act of performing, or particularly in a public place, is the concept of appearance. So you're acting, it's like an acting out, is the concept of appearance. Elegant or stylish, luxurious, posh, or appearance is more based on established ideas of action. Materialism still is a low-form concept closer to primitive nature. Okay, now you have duality. So duality is the quality or condition of being dual, and instance of opposition or contrast between two concepts or two aspects of something, a dualism. Dual consisting of two parts, element, or aspect having a position on the other or the further side of something, facing something, especially something of the same type that has no theory past the sum of two numbers. So it's a polarization. It has no theory past two numbers. There are two people, two opposing forces involved. Next one is magic. So you have the magic, the power of apparently influencing the course of events by mysterious or supernatural. So this is the fourth level. Duality is the third, fourth level, influencing the course of events by using mysterious or supernatural forces. Divination, necromancy, voodoo, sympathetic, intended for or likely to be understood by only a small number of people with a specialized knowledge or interest in the esoteric teachings. So we have then creativity. So creativity is existing or occurring at or on the surface, superficially as to the outward appearance, other on the surface at face value. The activities associated with the governance of an area with other structures is art. Characteristic primitive nature ends in the fifth principle. So that's the fifth principle. Creativity is the fifth principle. Then you have the sixth principle, which is analyze, to examine methodically and in detail the constitution or structure of something, especially in information, typically for the purpose of examination and interpretation, can only be done by separation. Perceive the intended meaning of words or language through logic or reason, conducted or associated according to the structure of the strict principles of validity, arrangement of elements, not acceptance. Starts complex nature. Is the start of complex nature. Then you have equilibrium. Equilibrium, this a state in which opposing forces or influences are balanced, assorted the size, amount, or degree of something by using an instrument or device marked in standard units or by comparing it with an object of known size, a symbolic expression of the fact that two quantities are equal. Seventh principle proposition. So, and then you have the next concept, which is, revenge. So revenge is a strong way to put it, but it's the conscious mind. So we're going to read out so this is the eighth principle. Seventh principle, equilibrium. Eighth principle, revenge. So we call it a little bit more aggressive because this is adult stuff. It's not children. Revenge, the action of inflicting hurt or harm on someone for an injury or wrong suffered at their hands. Measure for measure. In the eighth principle, now that you have taken a sum of the total amount, awareness begins for self-ownership, also known as sovereignty of the individual or individual sovereignty. Not all principles are pleasant ones. Complex nature is hard to deal with, for that is why it is complicated. So that's the eighth principle. Then you have the next principle after there is the philosophical mind. So that's the ninth principle. Ninth principle of philosophical mind is philosophy, the study of the fundamental nature of knowledge, reality, existence, especially when used for the study of the theoretical basis of a particular branch of knowledge or experience, the refinement of the process of removing impurities or unwanted elements from a substance. Ninth principle. So ninth principle. Then we have after that, the ninth principle, we have the 10th principle, stability. Stability, the quality or state or degree of being stable, such as the strength to stand or endure. Firmness, the property of a body, properties of the body. Firmness, the property of a body that causes it, when disturbed from conditions of equilibrium or steady motion, to develop forces or moments that restore the original condition. Stability of an object or structure not likely to give way or overturn, firmly fixed. Honor. It's also supplementary. So firmly and firmness. Property of a body that is firm or strong, upright. So that's stability. The next process after that is the theoretical mind. So after the 10th is the 11th. Understanding. 11th principle, the theoretical, considered with or involving the theory of an object or area of study rather than its particular application. Complexity, the state or quality of being intricate or complicated. Equilibrium, decisions using facts instead of your emotions. So using facts instead of your emotions. Next portion is the intuitive. So the last and final perception is 12th perception. Intuitive, using or based on what one feels to be true, even without consciously reasoning, even without consciously reasoning it. Instinctively, the ability to understand or know something without any direct evidence or reasoning process. Psychics are intuitive, so it's like a psychic perspective. So it could be it's intuitive is sort of like the instinctual mind, and so that's the representation of what I'm talking about here. Now the levels go from the bottom up. So like this representation here. This representation here is the way to do it. First level here. And so that's the best I can give you. I hope it's not too jumbled. There are associations with the zodiac. Also associations with the zodiac. But I don't know if I want to give you that, because I don't want to confuse you. But here's if you look on this side, this is representation of action. Would be Aries, material, Taurus, and then it goes up all the way up. And then it repeats again into an octave, and then repeats again into another octave. And so there's actually, after the 12 understanding, there's another 12 understandings, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, no, there's 7. 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, so there's 7 different perspectives that after, so there's 12 and then another 7 added. The Egyptians do it differently. They do it not in like a clock-like system like that, but they do it totally different. So the first perspective is the universal mind. The next perspective after the universal mind is polarization. Then the next perspective after that, that's wrong. The first perspective is the universal mind. The next perspective is vibration. The next perspective is polarization. Then after polarization comes rhythm. And then after rhythm comes correspondence. And then after correspondence is called gender. But I think they mean some sort of when they say as above, so below. So really it's 14 perspectives, not 2. So it's 2 7s added together, because there's a little bit more understanding. There's also planets assigned to it. So I don't give you a rendering of the planets, but well, I could show you. I don't think I have it here. I'm not sure if I have the planets here. I don't think I wrote that down. But the planets, yeah, I don't have that. I don't have the planets here. But it's interesting when you look at this chart of what I'm talking about here. So that's a lot of levels of understanding. So you understand, like, you see from 1st to 12 here, that's a lot. If someone programmed that into a reality, if that was like that, that's a lot of understanding. You'd have to have a lot of understanding to understand that. You couldn't just superficially understand that. You'd have to reason that out. So yeah, I don't have that. But I think I'm gonna end it there. This was the very similar to the Hermetica. This is my own resonance of the perspectives of different types of the yin and the yang. We didn't go into the yin and the yang perspective because I don't want to confuse you, but we could go into a little bit of that, but I don't know if I don't want to confuse you. So the opposite nature, you got to do the opposition nature. So the opposition nature of action is measurement. The opposition nature of materialism is consciousness. The opposition nature of duality is philosophy. The opposition nature of community is stability, or self-possession is stability. So after self-possession, opposite nature is stability. Then you have the opposite nature of the shallow perspective, or the shallow mind is the theoretical mind. Then you have the opposite nature. So the shallow mind's opposite nature, the yin and the yang perspective. So the yin would be, you could interchange them. So one could be the yin or the yang. So I would say the yin would be the intellectual side. The yang would be the shallow perspective. The yin and the yangs. Then you have the opposite nature of the logical mind is the mind of acceptance. And then it starts all over again. So I think I'm going to end it there.